Hi, you're listening to the Rav Dessler Giving Podcast with me, Avram Ziedman. Join us as we weave together philosophy, psychology, and Kabbalah to uncover a new depth to what it means to being a giver. I chose for one of my A-levels to study law, and I had to learn the Convention of Human Rights. It came off the back of the Second World War, and the concept was there should be certain fundamental human rights. By the mere fact that you're a human being, there's certain rights which you should be entitled to. So as part of the A-level, I had to memorize the statutes, but just to give you some, the right to life, freedom from torture, freedom from slavery, right to liberty, right to a fair trial, not to be punished outside of the law, freedom of thought and expression, basic fundamental human rights. But I have a question on this. When people start focusing on their rights, does that not, down the line, lead to the suing culture? It's scary how far it's gone, where people's whole attitude in life is sue, sue, sue. I remember when I was in school and I had a friend from America, and we were having a discussion, and he asked me, he said, imagine that someone just dropped down, stopped breathing, would you save their life? And I was thinking, okay, this has got to be a trick question. Can't see the trick. Yes. Would you? No. You wouldn't save the person's life. Why? He says, I wouldn't want to get sued. I wouldn't risk it. How ironic that if the whole Convention of Human Rights is for the sake of saving people, that you wouldn't save someone based on that. But you can see where that attitude comes from. If a person is focusing on their human rights, my rights, then that attitude of rights is continuously inward focus. So here's my question. Is it possible to be able to somehow create the Convention of Human Rights, but without it leading to self? So, in order to be able to answer this, at the time, I thought, you know what, let's go through the Torah and let's see how many rights are there contained in the Torah. You know, there's 613 mitzvot, 613 laws. Out of those, perhaps it's a bit subjective, how many of those could you consider as a human right? You know, it says don't murder, don't steal. How many of the 613s would you say are possibly human rights? Pause the recording now and take your guess. Okay, and the answer is none. What? There are no rights in the entire Torah. Oh, what do you mean? You just mentioned a moment ago, don't murder, don't steal. Right. It doesn't say in the Torah, you have a right to life. You have a right not to have someone steal from you. What we have in the Torah is obligations. In Hebrew, chiyuvim. As opposed to a right to life, you have an obligation not to murder. As opposed to a right not to have someone steal from you, there is an obligation not to steal. Now, you may say, all right, very nice semantics. It's all the same thing. I would say it's a total different paradigm shift. When I'm focused on my right, I'm asking what's in it for me. But when I'm focusing on my obligation, my chiyuvim, it's about what do I have to do for others. So fundamentally different is the concept of rights and obligations, that when you look in the Torah, there is actually not a single Hebrew word for the word rights. It doesn't exist. Now, in modern Hebrew, the word for rights you'll say is zechut, but that's just modern Hebrew. It's not really a good translation. The word zechut really means merits. And the Kabbalists say that if there is no source for something in the Torah, or even in the Hebrew language, then there's no real reality to it. Meaning if there's no word for the word rights, then really this whole attitude is not a true attitude. So let's play it out. Two worldviews, one worldview of rights and one worldview of obligations. In a worldview of rights, every single person is focusing on what everyone has to do for them. I'm walking down the street and I see a car coming towards me. Excuse me, it's my right to be able to walk here. I go and buy myself a coffee, and I have a right to make sure that I have the best quality coffee. When I go into the office, I focus on my rights, that I'm entitled to my lunch break. I'm entitled to make sure that I'm in a safe environment. And everything, the whole day is rights. And that world can function. You can have a world which functions where everybody is self-centered. But you could have an entirely different world which would also work, where every single person is focused on their obligations. As I'm driving in my car, I think 1 minute someone is about to step onto the road. I have an obligation to keep others safe. When I'm doing a business transaction, I am obligated to be honest. When I'm working, I am obligated to make sure that I'm using my hours properly for my boss. That worldview is also going to work. But you've got two different societies. One is on the convention of human rights, and the other one is the convention of human obligations. One worldview which functions, everyone is focused on the body, they're focused on self, as opposed to the world of obligations, every single person is soul-orientated, focused on what I can do for other people. Both worldviews work, but one is a world of taking and the other one is a world of giving. It's funny because potentially in action, both worlds could look identical. You may see no difference at all between this worldview and that worldview, but what's going on behind the scene is radically different. Most likely over time, with the different outlooks, you'll have a radically different world and the actions will look different too. But the real true giving is in the mindset. Be great, be a giver. Giving is in the mindset. This podcast was proudly brought to you by Gift, where we're on a mission to inspire and enable lifelong giving. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to continue exploring the art of giving with us, please subscribe.